All right, let's give everyone just a minute. Welcome, everybody. Get logged in. We'll let everybody log in. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Kat Clemens, and I am the president of ROADwomen. There we go. Audrey, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. Okay, I couldn't hear. Okay, sorry. All right. Hello. Hi.
We're so glad that you're here.
I see what's happening. All right, I see what's happening. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Audrey Lawton Evans. I am the chair of the Houston Black American Democrats, and we are so excited to be a part of this event tonight.
And I'm Lily Schechter, chair of the Harris County Democratic Party, and we are also thrilled to be here tonight. We are so excited that we have some amazing women that represent us in the United States Congress. Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who are all going to join us tonight. They are each powerhouses in their own right. But before we get into the program, I would be remiss if I did not plug our first annual virtual spring JRR that we are doing next week. We are so excited that Speaker Pelosi and the new DNC chairperson, Jamie Harrison, are going to join us in a conversation moderated by our own county judge, Lena Hidalgo. Every year we have a JRR, and it's our most fun and exciting event where we get to spend time with all of the other Democrats in Harris County. And it really is just a fun social event with a meaty program where we get to be reminded about why we are Democrats and get excited about everything happening at the national and local level. This year we are doing ours virtually. We are so excited. We have so many amazing sponsors who are supporting this event. The thing about the amazing sponsors that are supporting this event means we are going to be offering free individual tickets. So we hope that everybody signs up and joins the program. Because it is virtual, last year's JRR took a little bit longer than this one this year. This one will be under an hour. So we're really excited about having Speaker Pelosi and Jamie Harrison. And we hope that you can join us and sign up. Go to harrisdemocrats.com to sign up for an individual ticket. If you would like to sponsor our event, we are always looking for sponsors. So please join the list of sponsors at harrisdemocrats.com as well. Kat, I think I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lily. Right now, I would like to introduce, because we would be remiss if we didn't introduce our ROADwomen's own Tanya Gonzalez Ingram. Tanya, tell us about what's going on next month with HBAD, HCDP, and ROADwomen. You're on mute.
It wouldn't be a Zoom virtual event, right? So I just like Lily said, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't do this if we didn't push our events. We run the world where we're going to be celebrating women. This is an event that was postponed from March. Now is going to be on April 16. I know that I have been on your email. I have been on your social media. I have been asking you. Please, if you have already spoken to me and you have already pledged that you're going to participate, we are needing those videos and the funds by April 1st. Please also reach out to any of us to confirm that you are going to be part of the event. If you do not know about the event, we want you to also ask any questions. We are looking, whether you're an elected official or whether you're just a member, we are looking for you to participate. Ticket starts at $10, and then we have sponsorship from $150 to $5,000. All of the money goes to outreach for women, and we want to get started right away. So we are putting this money into outreach. We want to not only celebrate women, but we also want to connect with women and make sure that they vote for the 2022 election. So please, I will be putting the links on the chat, so you will see that. And if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Let me stop sharing here. Audrey, do you guys does HBAD have any events coming up that you want to share?
Thank you, Kat. So in addition to the event that we will be having on April the 16th, we are also very excited to collaborate with the Meyerland Dems for our next meeting, which will be in April. We will actually have it on April the 19th. It is called Georgia on Our Minds, and creating winning strategies for Texas. It is going to feature Billy Michael Honor, who was the director for faith organizing for the New Georgia Project, and Meredith Lilly, who was the senior advisor for the Warnock campaign, and she is also the statewide director for the Warnock administration. We are going to follow that up with a call to action, and we have notified the Elections Administrator's Office that the very next day, we are going to hold a VDR training, an online VDR training, specifically requested by HBAD and Meyerland Dems, and you don't have to be a member of either to attend that. So we will start signing people up to become VDRs. So we're excited about that. We're excited about 2022, and just so excited about all of the collaborations that we've been able to do.
That's fantastic. And one of the things, again, that Tanya mentioned, the reason we're doing We Run the World is to raise money for our efforts, for the efforts with HCDP to register new voters, register new women voters and new first-time voters so that we can follow in the footsteps of Stacey Abrams and the Georgia model. So all of this that we're doing now, we are busy now because we know that 2022 is just around the corner, and we need all of you, all of the support, all of the energy, all of the wisdom and the knowledge that we've gained over the last 4 years to actually win, to keep the Senate, to keep the House, and in the future to keep the presidency. So stick with us, join our clubs. I'll have that information running for you later. So thank you, Lily. Thank you, Audrey. Now I would like to introduce our moderator for the evening. She is a rock radio Hall of Famer, host of the Rockstar Principles podcast, best-selling author, and former congressional candidate. Please help me welcome Miss Dana Steele.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, so many familiar names I see there. I am going to have some great questions for our panelists who are going to be joining me here in just a minute. But I wanted to add another title to that introduction, Kat. I am also a VDR, so I highly recommend that folks get out there and get that done. Now, are you going to bring our special guest in, or do you want me to?
I am bringing them in.
There they are. All right, we have got. Hi, how are you? I miss you.
Haven't seen you in a while.
I know, it's good to see you. And I see you. We're missing Lizzie. Is Lizzie coming in, Kat?
She doesn't seem to be on right now, but as soon as she was in a vote, so as soon as she is available, okay, I will bring her in.
Well, something tells me that the three of us will not be at a loss for words. So after
this is my group.
After I lost my race for Texas 36, I just packed up my bags and moved into Sheila Jackson Lee's district. So a big shout out to my Congresswoman. I am thrilled to be in your district. I have actually got a question that I'm going to start off with a question for both of you to answer. And then I'll get into all of my questions for Congresswoman Lee. But I'll start with you, Sheila Jackson Lee. If you'll answer this question, what woman, female politician, what woman or female politician did you look up to and want to follow in their footsteps all those years ago? Who inspired you?
Well, am I on? I'm unmuted. Great.
We hear you.
You're going to put me in a pickle. But I've had a myriad of women that have been so inspirational to me. I'd say when I was a small fry, it was certainly Shirley Chisholm and Barbara Jordan. as I got into the process of advocating for candidates, it was obviously Ann Richards, and I remember very well the candidacy of, obviously I was more than a small fry then, of Kathy Whitmire. But then nationally, Dolores Huerta was an inspiration in terms of just being a tough cookie and an organizer. So I am grateful to have known Shirley Chisholm and to have known Barbara Jordan and the ones that I admired. So as a very small fry, even though it was just yesterday, we were longing for individuals during that time frame. And so we had to mature a little bit to be able to college and beyond, to be able to see real role models. You all recall the Convention of Women in Houston, I think 1972, I can't remember the exact year. You know, until that gathering, we were struggling. There were a few women in the United States Congress. I won't say there were not many, but we were struggling. So those are the women that I admired. And let me just also say local leaders. There was a Christy Adair who was secretary to the NAACP. There was Mrs. Gray, who was a part of the 295 precinct as a precinct judge. Her husband was precinct judge, but she was the precinct judge. So it was activist women like that that were inspirational to me, saying that if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And
I love it. I love it. I was going to show you this, Congresswoman Lee. It's the back of my new book on how to run for office. None of you need this, but it is the quote from Shirley Chisholm. If they won't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And I just love that. Lizzie's just joined us. Hey, Lizzie, it's Dana. How are you?
Hey, Dana.
It's good to see you. I've got questions for each of you individually, but right now, since it's Women's History Month, and that's our theme for this event, I started with Congresswoman Lee. I'm going to go to Sylvia now. Sylvia, what woman or female politician just really inspired you and lit a fire under you?
Well, for me, growing up, a poor kid in South Texas, and we were, you know, when we watched TV, when we finally got a TV, I used to watch Sissy Farenthold because it was the Corpus Christi area. And I still remember, you know, the name of the reporter, Jean Looper, you know, K3 TV, Frances Sissy Farenthold today in Austin, you know, blah, 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 blah. The next day, Sissy Frances Farenthold. She was constantly doing there, was a fighter. I remember watching her fighting when she was a legal aid lawyer, when she became a state rep, then when she was part of the Dirty 30, and then, of course, she ran for governor. So for me, it was always Sissy Farenthold. That's why I wanted to be a lawyer. That's her and Barbara Jordan are the two reasons I wanted to be a lawyer. And to be a legal aid lawyer like Sissy, helping poor people and helping people who needed help. And then the other person it was a county commissioner. I never would have dreamt that I would end up being a county commissioner. Her name was Tina Villanueva. And I still remember Spanish language radio when she won. Everyone was in shock that a woman had won. But I still remember her little jingle ad on Spanish radio, Tina Villanueva para la gente, Tina Villanueva para la gente. So it was like, I always had an interest in that. So they're the two that really stirred my interest from the beginning about politics. But it was always about helping and working campaigns and being a volunteer. I still remember walking into Barbara Jordan's campaign office and helping her in her race. I remember meeting Shirley Chisholm and everybody. I was a delegate to the IWI conference in '77 that Sheila referenced. So I've been involved in politics for a long time. But the ones who really caught my interest were Sissy and Tina Villanueva.
Am I being
all right, and now we're going to go over to Lizzie Fletcher. Lizzie, happy Women's History Month. Who lit the fire under you? A woman or a female politician?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dana. And you know, hearing my colleagues talk about their inspiration, I of course missed a little bit getting on here, but I think there's so many inspiring Texas women that we can look to. But for me, you know, there are probably two that jump out as well. And one, of course, was the mayor when I was growing up, was Kathy Whitmire. And so when I was a candidate running for the first time, all these people asked me, well, where did you get the idea that women could run for office. And I thought, well, where do you get the idea that they can't? When I was growing up, the most powerful woman in our community, as far as I could tell, the most powerful person was our mayor, Kathy Whitmire. And so I remember her and that positive Houston Proud campaign in the 80s. And then, of course, rolling right into one of the most incomparable Texas governors, one we could use right about now. Of course, Ann Richards was the governor when I was in high school. And that was really the time of my kind of political awakening. I got very involved with a lot of political groups and clubs as a high school student, and was writing letters to my legislators and doing all kinds of stuff. And I remember actually going to Austin to see Ann Richards. And just what an incredible and inspiring time to watch women in politics. So I think, for me, it was such a formative experience to see women not just at the table, but at the head of the table. And I think that was great for me to see. And it's great for our daughters and granddaughters to see right now, all these incredible women serving in the Congress and in offices, our Harris County judge, just incredible people in our community who just, I think, will inspire the next generation. So those are the two, though, that jump out at me as very formative women leaders who shape my view about what women can do and what they should do.
Great answers from all of you. I know you can't see us too far behind me, but I do have my Ann Richards prayer candle, which is a very important thing to have in your office at all times. I'm going to go back to my Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Okay, now we have done so many appearances together in the past in radio, and I always called you Sheila. Now that I've run for office and I know there are titles, is it Congresswoman Lee? Is it Congresswoman Jackson Lee? Is it Dana call me what? What would you like me to call you?
Well, you are my friend. They're all my friend. When we're in Washington, it's Congresswoman. I still stick with Congresswoman, and I stick with Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Sheila Jackson Lee. But when we're wherever, we are sisters. So.
All right. Well, then, sister, I have some questions for you.
There you go.
All right. When did you know that you had made it? And did you celebrate, or did you do like Lady Gaga does, think, how do I get better? What do I do next?
Well, I'm going to jump on Lady Gaga's how do I get better? But let me say that each step of my progress was sort of a moment of excitement for me. I was like a kid in a candy store, because really, even in my time that came after Shirley, way after Barbara, it was still like a stars in your eyes when you were able to make it from then being an associate judge, lawyer, and then making it a citywide council. I was the second African-American woman to be elected to the city council at large. So there were stars in the eyes very much then. And the first woman to go from city council to the United States Congress, there was more than stars in your eyes. But you're always growing. And that's what I say to my sisters during this month. You're always growing. There's no one better than you. You are standing alongside your sisters, and it's really your own moral compass, your own level of achievement that you should be guided by. And that's the compass that I utilize, that I never take the place that I'm in now for granted. I certainly am horrified by some of the actions of this place, but I'm in awe every time I walk into the United States Congress. That's why we fight against the misbehavior, the insurrectionists, the disregard, the disrespect. We will not tolerate it. And we will fight against all odds of the naysayers, the underminers, the people who disrespect the most vulnerable. That has been my mission. And if it risks getting gains in my own personal political life, so be it. We will continue to fight against injustices. So the stars in my eyes are the ability to make a difference in this work, to use the power not for me, but to use it for my constituents. And frankly, we'll get called on from people around the nation, and we get involved in issues around the nation. We're not limited to the boundaries of Texas. We're not limited to the boundaries of our district. But what we do say is that we're waiting every day for this great state, these beautiful people to come into the 21st and the 22nd century and to really have a home run of progressiveness, change, and leadership. That's what I'm fighting for in the state of Texas.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions for all of you, and I'm just going to kind of round robin here. We also have our audience wants to ask a few questions. So, Sylvia, next for you, and it's along the topic of encouraging other candidates. Let's be real honest here. That there was no chance I was going to beat Brian Babin, but boy, we worked it like there was. But you reached out to me. You reached out to Adrienne Bell. You had a private dinner one night. In fact, it was me, Adrienne Bell, and Sri Kulkarni. And you brought the three of us into a private dinner in a back room in a restaurant. And you said point blank, what can I do to help? And I will never forget that. So the question for you is, what are you doing now to encourage other women candidates?
Well, Dana, I still do much of what you're talking about. I made it a point, and Lizzie, Lizzie and I did a press event together in her area, delivering N95 masks to one of her community health centers. That was my way of supporting her and making sure that people saw that she was here working on the pandemic and doing right by all populations, not just a few. So that kind of thing. I did events with Sri. I probably did, Lizzie, I'm sorry, because Sri was new. I probably did 3 or 4 events with him in Fort Bend County. But I think it's important because Texas is the battleground, no matter what happened last time. And it will continue to be that because we're there just on the cusp of turning blue, and we'll be able to pick some seats. But it's not just the Congress. I mean, I support women who are running for city council, for school board. I do fundraisers for them. I'll host events for them. But that's just who I've been for many, many years, Dana. Because I tell people, I don't run to be a first. I run to be the best. And for me to be the best, I need folks that I can rely on to help me along the way, and the alliances that we can build of working together, because none of us can really do it alone. It takes all of us at all levels of government. So you'll find me involved in city council races, commissioners' courts, Judge Hidalgo, I helped her get elected. So it's important that we do that to make sure that, yes, we have a seat at the table, but we got to make sure that there's more of us at the table. Because that's how we can get things done. And we're doing better in Congress in terms of the women represented. But I still remember a button we had at that IWI conference in 1977, and it said 50-50 by 2010. Well, we didn't make it. We're still trying. And I'm not going to give up until we make it.
And we're going to talk about, that'll be another question we'll get to in just a few minutes, is how do we encourage more women to run? How do we support them? But Lizzie, I was in your district last night. I was at a socially distanced, we've all been vaccinated cocktail party. That would be the new theme for all cocktail parties. And it was also like the AKA Lizzie Fletcher fan club. And they were just fanboying, whatever, that I was going to be with you tonight. So what are you working on right now? What's important to you? And I almost want to add tack on to the end of that question. And how has it changed after this bizarre ice storm and power outage in all of Texas?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And the good news is I can take a minute to acknowledge that what we are working on in Congress this week is the hard work of our colleague, Congresswoman Jackson Lee, that tomorrow we're going to vote to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. And that's something she has championed for years and years. She talked to me about it when I was a candidate, when she was so helpful to me, kind of on the theme that y'all were just discussing about supporting each other. Way back when we were talking, when I was a candidate, we talked about the importance of reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act. So that's something that's right in front of us in Congress this week. And we've done so much amazing work in the 2 months of this 117th Congress. As everybody knows, we passed the American Rescue Plan last week. And I was really thrilled that my bill to encourage states like Texas that have not expanded Medicaid to do so. It encourages them by expanding the federal match. It's a really important bill. It was made part of that American Rescue Plan. And so I'm very actively working to try to convince our friends across the state of Texas. Congresswoman Garcia knows a bit about this and you know how it might be received in the ledge, but I think it is absolutely vital. There are so many Texans who are living in the coverage gap, who can't afford to get on the ACA marketplace, and who don't qualify for Medicaid. Medicaid expansion could expand coverage for up to 1 million people in Texas, 200,000 or more in Harris County. So absolutely vital that we work on expanding access to healthcare for people. And there are many provisions. We could spend the whole hour talking about the American Rescue Plan, but there's some really important healthcare provisions in there. That's something I've been working on a lot in this Congress. And of course, I have worked since I've gotten here on energy issues, and your question about the ice storm is right on point. We have a hearing next week doing an investigation in our committee on what happened in the Texas Winter Storm Uri. And, you know, that's another example, I think, of what we're talking about tonight, that leadership matters, and that having people in our community who are committed to our community and to leading it are so vital to be the people we elect to office. And so Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Garcia, and I were trying to help across our districts with our city council members, county commissioners, you know, everybody, just really all hands on deck working after the winter storm and doing what we could as a congressional delegation to get FEMA assistance here, to make sure that the president signed the major disaster declaration as quickly as possible. We all signed on to a letter asking FEMA to approve it as quickly as possible. You know, there's a lot you can do, and it takes being in your community, being a part of your community to do that. And really the commitment. And I think that that's something that I've seen with my colleagues who are on this program, and also the women that we get to work with. Councilmember Abby Kamen, who represents District C in my district, Judge Hidalgo, Martha Cassex Tatum. I mean, I'm going to name everybody, but just everyone who's out there delivering water, making things happen. I think what we've seen is there was an immediate short-term recovery that we all needed to participate in, but there are some real long-term questions that we need to be asking about how we do things and how we can do them better, and how we can make sure ultimately that we are never in the situation again that we were in following the winter storm. So the energy and healthcare issues certainly give me plenty to do, but there's so many important, meaningful pieces of legislation in front of this Congress. And like I said, I'm excited this week we're reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act. We passed a background check bill, 2 background check bills last week. There's just so much going on here, and I'm really proud to be a part of passing these monumental bills that will be so transformative for people across our community and across our country.
And I think I speak for the entire audience when I say to the three of you, it was very exciting when Biden won. It was very exciting as when Vice President Harris was sworn in. But just the work that the three of you and your colleagues have been able to do and been able to accomplish despite everything else that's going on. We still have plenty of questions to ask you, but I just have to say it's easier to go to sleep at night knowing that there are 3 people like you and a lot more like you there after everything we've gone through in the last few years. And you're so incredibly appreciated. I have pre-planned questions, which I never play by the rules. You don't do that in rock and roll. It's Women's History Month. You mentioned the Violence Against Women Act. Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee, tell us more. It has got to be passed this time, and I am just so impressed with the work you're doing on this.
Well, my sister, as you have called me, your sister, my sisters enrolled women, my sister Lizzie, my sister Sylvia, we collaborate so well together, each with our individual spheres of focus. And we wrote this bill in 2018 to respond to the expiration of the legislation at that time. It has a 5-year sunset, which is something that I want to see change prospectively. And so it was authorized in 2013 and it expired. We wrote the bill. We were ready to go forward. The Republicans, who were both the House, the Senate, the President, they just would not move the bill. And as well, they wouldn't move their own bill. These are individuals who try to step in our shoes and say they are as much for women and women's rights. So in actuality, this bill has been a work in progress through last Congress, when we added a number of amendments, both Republicans and Democrats, so we can claim it to be a bipartisan bill. And we are moving it now with a procedure that we have that means that we can go straight to the floor without a hearing or a markup if we do it before April 1st. And I am grateful to the leadership. I'm grateful to Congresswoman Fletcher and Congressman Garcia, certainly members of the Women's Caucus, who have been mighty in recognizing this has got to get done. It's an exciting bill. It puts $110 million into rape prevention. It has a wonderful housing provision that indicates that if you've got to get out of there, and your name is not on the lease, and so he doesn't go in most instances a he, but it may be a her, or it may be a he, as they say because we work with the LGBTQ community, that we can get you housing as quickly as possible for you and or your children. And that has been life-saving. We have culturally sensitive language that deals with non-English speakers, people of African-American heritage, Asian heritage, groups that will be able to deal with those women and those cultural differences. We have established a deputy director for cultural outreach and the Office of Violence Against Women. We have intervention for men and boys. We ensure that stalking is now included, sexual trafficking is now included, that you get the same benefits if you've been sexually trafficked. We believe those expansions from sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking. So many women talk about stalking. So many women have been violently hurt because of so-called innocent stalking. And we get the convicted sex stalker that has been convicted cannot have a gun, because police will tell you that the most deadliest calls that they get for them as well are the domestic violence calls. And in our own beloved city of Houston, we have seen a terrible surge of domestic violence in the midst of the pandemic. It hurts our heart every day. People are being, a 19-year-old killed his mother. A man just killed his mother-in-law and in front of the children, we understand, and then killed himself. That's just a small measure of what has happened. One of the most horrible cases is somebody who came in from out of town and killed a mother, a father, the new husband, and shot 5 of the children, but one of them survived. So this has been a work in progress with so many women. Louise Slaughter, you may have heard her name from New York, now passed, was one of the original persons who sponsored this bill in 1994. I came along in 1996 with Joe Biden at that time and stood with the bill again in sort of the mid era of the bill. We were amending it. But so I've lived this life of seeing this bill reauthorized in the right way and then get into a deadlock with the past President Trump, twice impeached, and the Republican House and Senate. You will hear loud voices on the floor in the debate tomorrow. If you want a slight headache, you can look at it, because you'll hear good things being said by the women on the other side and men, Democrats. But there'll be people challenging this for gun, that it's taking away the Second Amendment and it's providing abortion. All of this. Ladies, my sisters and gentlemen, we never do anything alone. I do it with my sisters that are on this Zoom, and I do it all the sisters across America. This is an unselfish bill. We listen to all the advocates, 200 groups, and I will finally close on this. I'm hoping that once we get this out of the House, we can move this quickly. We won't talk about the filibuster right now, but I know the Senate is committed to this bill. And I know the Houston Area Women's Center that has seen their calls triple, their needs for housing. I'm a former board member for women who are fleeing violence. I know that this legislation is needed now. So anything you can do to send the word out, to whip it up, and not let any of the members of the delegation, and I say the Texas delegation, the Republican members, should not be excused for not voting for this legislation.
Well, that's a good call to action right there. And that leads into one of the questions that I was told to ask. So see, I do obey the rules every once in a while. I can behave occasionally. That is, you've got a lot of people involved with this tonight. You've got a lot of people that have joined us, a lot of people that are listening. What are the specifics? Are there specific members we need to be calling? Are there specific things that we need to be tweeting? What can we do to move this forward? I'm going to throw that question to Congresswoman Garcia. If you'd like to join, or all three of you, what can we do? You have an army listening to you right now that is ready to do the work that it takes. What do we need to do to move this forward?
Well, I think, emailing or texting every member of the Texas delegation. I mean, you can forget about the three of us. We're there. Al Green is there. Joaquin Castro is there. The Democrats are there. As Sheila said, it's the Republicans, and we will hear some of that nonsense. I mean, last week we heard that the background check bill was going to lead to more abortions. Now, figure that one out. But that's the kind of arguments that they make, and we'll hear more of that. And start now texting and emailing both Cornyn and Cruz, because the problem will be in the Senate. It will pass. We're also going to be voting on the ERA tomorrow. Those two will pass. But then it's got to go over to the Senate, and that's where everything gets slowed down because of the filibuster, because of, frankly, two or three, sometimes even four Democratic senators who don't stay on board on some of these issues. I don't think it's going to be on the Violence Against Women Act, or maybe the ERA, but probably not the Violence Against Women Act. So we need to start working on them. Remember, there are senators. We should start calling them. We should start emailing them or texting them, and also get your groups to do that, particularly the nonpartisan groups, because if it is a Democratic group, they'll just dismiss it as, oh, that's just the partisan stuff. But if you belong to a professional association or a women's association that's not a Democrat association, we'll get them to endorse it, because some of these bills just make sense. It's not about Democrat or Republican, it's about women's lives.
Congresswoman Fletcher, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, I'd love to add something, just sort of a little bit more broad, but your question was sort of how do we get involved on this particular piece of legislation? And I think more broadly, how do you get involved on any piece of legislation? It's really important to know how much it matters to participate. I know that in my office, we rely on hearing from our constituents to know how to prioritize certain things, to look for certain bills. And I think it's really important to engage. And I think, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people probably who are watching and participating, thinking about what it is they want to do to engage, I feel like for as long as I can remember, there's been this sense that the government is kind of an entity and a thing. And what I know being here and what my colleagues know, but what everybody needs to know is the government is just us, right? It requires all of us to participate in all the different ways, whether you are the elected representative casting the vote or writing the legislation, whether you're the constituent calling, or of course, campaigning, knocking on doors, making phone calls. It takes everybody, and everyone has a role to play. And so for folks who are interested in getting engaged, there are just so many different ways to participate, but all of those ways are really important. And I think sometimes, we might overlook the importance of every single part of what we're doing. I think right now, one of the most important things that everyone can do is ensuring that our democratic system continues to function and function even better. In the House, we passed H.R. 1, the democracy reform package, to make sure that we can have a fully functioning democracy. But there's some really scary bills that are floating around in Austin. And so I would encourage you to support this legislation, Violence Against Women Act, ERA, a lot of bills up here. But I would also encourage you to call your legislators and call everyone you can in the state of Texas to oppose these anti-democratic election bills, election protection bills that are coming through, to make sure that everyone can cast their ballot, that everyone's voice can be heard, that the kinds of things we saw in Harris County in the last election cycle, like evening voting, drive-through voting, 24-hour voting, the things that made it possible for people to have their voice heard and to have the largest turnout in our history, that those things don't get destroyed in the legislature this session. And I think, up here, it is clear to all of us that there are real threats to our democracy that we have to fight back against. And so I would encourage that with any other piece of legislation, and especially with these voting bills, to make your voice heard, because that is truly how things do happen. And I think my colleagues are right. Calling people and letting them know, sending letters, people pay attention. And right now we all need to be paying attention to what's happening in Austin when it comes to these voter suppression bills.
Thank you so much. Sheila Jackson Lee, what is the number of the bill? Nancy Higgs is asking. That way everybody knows what to say.
Right. It's HR 1620. And I was just coming on to say this. We're all just getting to be tweet, how should I say, masters. Please, if you can create a Twitter storm, pass VAWA now, pass HR 1620 now. Now is the time. It's been 24 hours that we'll be on the floor. You can, embellish it in any way you want, but if you can just say pass VAWA now, that will create a buzz, and that's the bill. And also the ERA bill, which is extending the deadline. We have missed the opportunity to get the ERA. HJRES, it's HRES 17. HJRES 17, and that is the ERA. So, but tomorrow, both will be on the floor. And if you can say pass VAWA now. I also want to make mention, as Lizzie has said, HR 1, we want to add to that HR 4, which is the Voter Enhancement Act bill, the John Robert Lewis bill. But there's a lot of work to do on voting because the Republicans can't win fairly, so they're going to win with voter suppression. Just to say this, as Sylvia indicated, we are what we are. We are where we are today because the voters voted in 2020. We have a president, a vice president, a majority leader, and a speaker continues to do the work of the people because of the people who voted in 2020. Those are our bosses. They voted. This is their work, and we're not going to let them down.
And we have to have somebody to vote for, which is why I tried to take what I learned from all of you. The very first thing I learned when I decided to run for office was at an event. Congresswoman Garcia walked up to me and said, "You have got your name tag on the wrong side." And I will never wear my name tag on the wrong side ever again after that. I try to teach other people. That's the little tips that I put in the book. So
you
this
do
question,
follow the rules.
well, sometimes my wine is off camera, so you can't see it right now. But here's a question for all three of you, and I will start with Lizzie on this one. How do we find more female candidates? How do we find more good candidates? It's all fine and dandy if we register a bazillion voters and we get them to the polls in 2022, but we must have somebody for them to vote for. How do we identify good candidates? How do we encourage them to run? How do we help them once they decide to run?
Well, those are all great questions. And I would say for everyone who is thinking about it, it starts with looking inward first and looking around. And, when I put my name on the ballot in 2018, it was the first time I had ever run for office. I hadn't imagined I would run for office. But I felt, as many of us do, I think, who are gathered here tonight, that the country had taken a wrong turn in 2016 and that, the election results represented a real threat to our values and to our democracy. I don't know that I imagined exactly what we would have seen over the last 4 years and into the beginning of this year. But I know that feeling was right. And I started asking around, well, what can I do? But even then I didn't think, I should run for Congress. It took a lot of people telling me that I should consider it and really asking myself those questions. But I think for so many women, they assume that someone else has been working longer, has a better resume, has a better profile. And I think we really need to encourage our women candidates to see themselves as candidates, for all kinds of positions, because they all matter. And it's so important to see how your interest in, for example, what's happening in school could lead you to being on the school board. There are all kinds of places where we are engaged, where we care passionately, where we know a lot, but we don't necessarily see ourselves putting our names on the ballot. And I think that it's really important to encourage people who are considering doing it, and also having opportunities to have realistic information. So I know in Texas, Annie's list is incredibly helpful. Emily's list for federal candidates was incredibly helpful to me in just understanding how it works. I think it's very daunting at first, but you really have to put together a great team and get advice from everyone to figure out whether it's which side to wear your name tag on or how to prioritize your time. But ultimately, it's about being your authentic self and bringing the things that motivate you to sign up in the first place to put your name on the ballot. And I think people will really respond to that. But it's got to start with looking differently and not assuming, again, this kind of goes to what I said earlier, the government is just us. And we all have something to bring to it. And there are different roles to play. But certainly, I think that people should think about putting their name on the ballot. And I can tell you that I don't regret for a second having done it. I was nervous the first time around and wondered what it would be like. And, you know, we all have our moments of, you know, whatever kind of self-doubt and other things creep in there. But what I get to do every day is such an incredible privilege and a pleasure to serve and represent our community. And it's really like no other opportunity I've ever had. And I think it's just so incredibly rewarding. So it is daunting to put your name on the ballot, but in my experience, it is definitely worth it.
Well, and there are so many incredible people like the three of you, like ROADwomen, like HBAD, like everybody that's involved in this event tonight, Lily, everybody that are there to help you. Sylvia Garcia, what would you say to encourage someone to run for office in 2022?
Just do it. Just do it. You know, it's one of those things that you don't want to look back later and regret that you didn't do it. If you've got the fire in the belly, if you really want to do it, my suggestion is to start working another campaign or volunteering to kind of get a feel for it, kind of, you know, shadow somebody. I know the three of us, as soon as the Congress opens up, the Capitol opens up for visitors, we wouldn't mind having people come and shadow us or look at what we're doing. We wouldn't mind them volunteering for our campaigns or any campaign. It's the more you see it, the more you feel comfortable in it. So I would say, you know, just do it and seek help. Lizzie mentioned Annie's List. They've got great programs. I served on the board for many years. Emily's List, I served on their board nationally to recruit more women candidates for Congress. So there's a lot of groups like that. NALEO, which is the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. I was their president for 3 years. And I can tell you that we worked on you know, making sure that we had more Latinos in office. We weren't a political organization that we don't donate and help candidates directly, but it's the training, you know, the substantive knowledge on all the different issues. I know the NAACP, MALDEF, a number of groups will do that you can go to conferences and learn so that you can feel like you know what's going on, and you don't have to, like Lizzie said, be afraid that you don't know enough and that somebody is more qualified than you. Women sometimes just kind of hesitate because they're unsure. But there's a lot of organizations today that are out there to help. And certainly any one of us would do that. And I know that Lily Schechter with the party has done several training events. The Democratic Party has done training events. So if you want to do it, I say do it.
You know, that was a great answer about coming and shadowing you when we can have visitors again in the Capitol. I was there on behalf of NASA, advocating with the group that comes up and advocates for NASA every year. Sure. And that was when I decided really to do it, because after I was there and I walked the hallways and I walked the tunnels, I thought, this is just people working. This is people working hard, collaborating with others. And that's what I've done my whole life. It's just doing it in a different city and, you know, a different office. Before I run out of time, same question for you, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, my Congresswoman. People say, Dana, are you going to run again? I'm like, are you kidding? I have a Sheila Jackson Lee. Why would I do that? I have got one of the best. There was a young, beautiful young Black woman who stopped me in the park in Discovery Green in November, and I may or may not have had on my Dump Trump hat. And she said, I love your hat. And I said, please get involved. And she said, I will. I said, no, seriously, we need more people that look like you and are passionate like you to run for office. And she said, I wouldn't know where to start. And that's where the new book came from. By the time I got back to my apartment, I was like, okay, I'm on tip 62 now. Sheila Jackson Lee, what do you say to someone listening right now that's going to make them start researching how to run for office in the morning.
We love your book, and we love the fact that you had or did not have your dump Trump hat, and that just was inspired just to be able to talk to you. So I'm a collaborator and get involved. And you mentioned HBAD, you mentioned ROADwomen. I know the iconic women that have gone through. HBAD is not a young organization. Neither is ROADwomen and the Mexican American Democrats. All these organizations, in the midst of just doing it, get involved with some of these groups. They participate in candidate screening and various other activities that you can get in and really self-learn. You could get involved with these organizations now and be ready to run in 2022. Take a landscape look at local elected positions. There are some hidden that you don't even know exist, and have Republicans there that just need to be changed. And you could get into that race. I've seen people do that in 2018. So I would just encourage you to be attentive. Take a Google look at what's out there. Embrace yourself in organizations like ROADwomen, like HBAD, like the Asian American organizations. There are many of them, Democratic organizations, the Democratic clubs. Be involved. There's a Democratic club almost in every neighborhood. It's a lot of fun. And so I'd encourage you just to do that, to develop allies. When you run, you need at least one or two allies. And I would do that. And then obviously, I think the theme of the night is just do it, just join it, just get it done. And when you get it done, you will be on the other side of victory, like I thought Lizzie did in 2018, Lizzie, right? And Sylvia did 2018, I think, as well. And that I did, and many other women have done. Get it done.
I want to bring Kat back in here because I know we're getting towards the end of our time, and see if I've missed anything. And there she is. But also remind people, we need hashtag #PassHR1620. Pass HR 1620 VAWA. We also have HR1. But I think one of the main messages I take away from all of this, two messages. One, just do it. Just do it. There's any number of people that will help you do it. And number two is that your phone calls and your emails and your tweets, they do make a difference. Mm-hmm. They do. Be loud, stand up, be heard. Kat, did I leave anything out here?
I love it.
No, absolutely not. Thank you all so much. Congresswoman Fletcher, Jackson Lee, and Garcia, thank you so much. We really do appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I think there was a lot of fire about VAWA, which I'm really excited about because personally I work for a domestic violence and sexual assault agency. So that's very, very close to my heart. So I love that we even talked about that tonight. So thank you. But also just I can tell that from the comments, people are really excited about hearing about the bill numbers so they know they have the information to go to their representatives, to go to their senators, and even locally to go to the representatives about what's happening as far as like voter suppression and things like that. So thank you so much for just lighting that fire for all of us. Audrey?
I mirror and echo the comments from Kat and from Dana. Thank you. You ladies are an inspiration, more than you know, to us all. You are definitely the figures that we look towards today, and that my daughters look towards today as women leaders for us now. I just want to make sure that you guys come back and join us on April the 16th. We were supposed to have this event tonight, but of course, because of the snowstorm, it was postponed, and it's called We Run the World, right? And yes, we do, right? And for International Women's Month, right? Snap, right? We Run the World. We're going to feature a showcase of just phenomenal women from all ages, from all backgrounds. We invite you, Congresswomen, to come back or to come say a word, to be a part of the program. We're just really excited about that. And of course, it is also a fundraiser for ROADwomen, HBAD, and the Harris County Democratic Party. So, we encourage you guys to stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of fun on that event. Thank you, ladies, for all that you do, and stay encouraged and just stay, stand with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We got to go vote.
Thank
All right,
you.
good to
Thank
see
you
you
so
all.
much. Keep
Y'all
us
take
involved
care.
in what we can do for you. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank
Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Vawa.
Thank you. Thank you, Vawa.
Vawa.
Yes.
Vawa.
That's a rallying cry now.
You. All right. Love you. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
We love you too. Thank you.
Great work,
Thank
Jay.
you.
Great work.
Thank you so much.
Great work to my Miss President Lawton. Great work to all of you ladies. I wanted to make sure I said that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Dana, I can't express enough how much we appreciate you taking your time tonight. Just phenomenal job. So really, we do appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you for letting me go off script a little bit, but I know we're all very, very passionate about all of this. And I think it's just so important to hear that our voices do matter. Sometimes we think they don't. Even those of us like you two and a lot of the folks that have joined us tonight who are so involved, sometimes it is a little discouraging to just keep fighting every single day, but it's worth it. We're making some headway. And if we can get more good people into office and involved in the process. I never run for office. My gosh, I was a DJ in the 80s. I didn't think that was anything. Yeah. But as somebody said, we already know all your secrets. So go ahead.
And Dana, how can we hear? Go ahead, Dana. How can we hear from you if we want to hear more?
TheRockBusiness.com is all things Dana. That's where the Rockstar podcast is. TheRockBusiness.com. It's where the books are. And I am offering to give books to any club. I'm offering to speak for free to any club. I'm offering to speak to groups and try to teach people how to do this. It was not anything I ever intended on doing. And it's the most patriotic, best and brutal thing I've ever done in my life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm so glad I got involved.
Well, we certainly appreciate you. And we all have a hashtag for tonight. Hashtag Pass VAWA Now. Get that trending on all of the social media. We appreciate you all so much. Make sure to tune in next month, 4/16 for Run the World. You can get your ticket on harrisdemocrats.org in their event section. So please do support our efforts to register new women voters and new first-time voters. We need your help. We gotta follow Stacey Abrams' model. She showed us the way, and so we just gotta follow her. Anything else?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm out of here. Bye, guys.
Bye. Audrey, anything else you want to say? Nope. All right. Okay, everybody. We'll see you next month. Thank you so much.